Chair, Honorable Chair, may I proceed?
Yes,
Sorry,
I have long announced that the time is now yours.
thank you. Thank you, Honorable Chair, honorable members. Mr. O'Sullivan, just in the sessions we've had thus far, in summary, you've undergone a remarkable transformation from a naive young man in his 20s, not quite knowing, not quite remembering what he said, what he did, to someone that's become involved deeply in South African politics of the day, and where we now ended in the last session with the arrest and conviction of former National Police Commissioner Selebi. So would you agree with me that's been quite remarkable from where you started or wanted to start by coming into our country and where you were after the conviction of former National Commissioner Selebi?
Chair, I suppose so.
Yeah.
As you get older, you get wiser and you become more experienced, and you learn as you go along. Nobody's a perfect human being, but you try to do what you do. And that's why I decided to get involved in empowerment projects in the way I did, and created lots of jobs for previously disadvantaged people.
So was this as a result of just a remarkable set of coincidences, or is it entirely your initiative and your work and your determination and vision for what you would see as a corruption-free South Africa?
So some of the work, Chairman, wasn't related to corruption or anything of the kind. I did a lot of work in the tourism development arena, which, yeah, I committed myself in a very strong way.
Yeah.
To opening up tourism in Soweto, by sitting down with owners of tourism plant in Soweto, and by generating increased footfall. I think between 98 and 99, we were able to increase tourist traffic to Soweto by 47%.
Yeah.
And I felt that part of the solution to the problems in South Africa was to create lots more work but quality work for people that previously were disadvantaged. And even though I myself had never been involved in this tragic event called apartheid, I believed that as a white person, I could and should try to do something that will improve the lives of all South Africans. And I think that my record in that regard speaks for itself.
Now, as I indicated, it's either by design or it's a remarkable set of coincidences, because we now also know that yes, you had gone to school, you had some post-school, like we would say post-matric qualifications, but you don't have any tertiary education, university qualifications. So was it just on the job that you learned to become a crime buster?
I had no tertiary qualifications in the what you call crime busting field. However, I did study the the necessary training to become a certified fraud examiner, which
You went to the States also to
I did
get it.
some of the training here and some of the training in the States. So there were a few courses that you could do in the States, but then you can do a lot of it online. And to become a certified fraud examiner, the exams and everything are recognized as NQF level 7, which is the equivalent of a bachelor's degree. And the staff that work for me, they've gone through that same process.
And to write that, you either need just a matric or O levels.
Yes, you need to have been able to demonstrate that you've worked in that arena. You can't just go and sit the exams without having worked in that field. And I had been working in the fraud investigation field for a number of years.
Okay. You weren't a witness in the Jackie Celebi trial.
No, I wasn't a witness because I didn't witness any of the corruption that took place. Or I didn't witness the drug trafficking that took place. What I did was I got information about it and I was able to get the witness.
Yeah, you kickstarted the investigation. You took your file or folder to the then NPA and I think to Gerrie Nel, and did they then complete or conclude the investigation?
That's correct. In fact, when I first went to them, they sent me packing. They said, no, you need to come back with some evidence. If you can't give us any evidence, we can't just work on the basis that you suspect this or you suspect that. So you need to go away and get evidence. So I went away and I got that evidence. When I came back to them, I didn't have just the drug trafficking. I also had a sworn statement from the captain in the police in Sandton, who had interacted with Glenn Agliotti. I also had the details of the counterfeit goods, which I had previously been involved in, but I didn't have the case number or anything. But I knew that he was involved in the counterfeit goods. And then, of course, I'd managed to get the transport company that was moving the goods around. I also managed to get a jeweler, a person that manufactures jewelry. And I managed to get this jeweler who was living in another country. He'd left South Africa. I managed to get this jeweler and I flew to see him. And he gave a sworn statement about a particular person that went into his shop and paid for watches that Jackie Celebi then came and picked up. So I managed to get all that sort of information.
So you gave the leads to the prosecutors, they followed up and then collected other corroborating evidence and witnesses. Yeah. But you yourself, you weren't involved in that further investigation or at the trial itself.
No, you see, Chairman, I don't have the ability, for example, like they would have, to pull cellular phone records that shows who was talking to who and when they were talking and where they were and all that sort of stuff. Only the police have that ability. I don't have the ability to pull the bank records of those people. They need Section 205 subpoenas to be able to pull those bank records. So they were able to go and put all the pieces of the jigsaw together based on the evidence that I supplied to them. And obviously there was a lot of work involved in that. I believe they had a team of people working on it for a very long time. And they were able to actually do a raid and seize the 200 million rands worth of drugs.
So clearly on your own, with your own, or on your own devices or with your own team, you would not have been able to secure the conviction of the former National Commissioner.
Not at all. It would have been impossible because I'm not a prosecutor. I don't have access to the state's machinery to go and do those things. Yeah.
So the reason why I asked those questions by way of background or entry into the next section that we're going to look at is on page 14, paragraph 39. your investigative work into the SAPS and the NPA. Because you then say that on or about 2011, 2012, but I'm reading from paragraph 39, in the aftermath of the Celebi trial, and for several years thereafter, you've attempted a mopping up exercise whereby you identified and open cases against senior persons in the criminal justice system that I could see had engaged in criminal activity and would reduce the rule of law. And in the next paragraph, you name certain people that you had identified, and then subsequently also multiple prosecutors and senior corrupt officials. And so you then embark on this so-called mopping up exercise. So you went on a crusade. And did you go do that on your own? Were you assisted by persons both inside the criminal justice system and outside? How did you go about doing that? Can you just summarize for us?
Chairman, opening a docket is just one step. After you open the docket, that's not the end of it. Somebody has to take that forward and then adduce further evidence and make a decision as to whether or not there'll be a prosecution.
Yeah.
And what I noted was that during the Celebi trial, a number of people got hands-on involved to try and prevent the successful trial and conviction of Jackie Celebi. And I won't say it was a crusade, but I realized that after the Jackie Celebi trial, the Scorpions were disbanded, and then those people were still in their jobs. And I thought, wow, nobody seems to be taking any action against them. So I decided to open dockets against them. And I
So just repeat that and clarify. No, you jump from the Scorpions were disbanded. We know that was 2008, 2009.
I think 2010.
2020, was it effective 2010?
Yes.
And then those people are still in their jobs. You're not referring to people who were actually the Scorpions.
No.
You're talking to other officials.
Yeah, so I've named them here. So what I saw, Chairman, was that, for example, some of these people gave evidence at the trial of Jackie Celebi, but they didn't give evidence for the state. They gave evidence for the defense. And I was quite shocked to see this. And then we had, while all this is going on, you have these investigative journalists, for example, Sunday Times, Mail and Guardian, News 24, IOL, the Star newspaper, and so on and so forth. What had started happening was stuff was coming out of the woodwork, which clearly implicated those people. And the catalyst for that was the so-called spy tapes, which I was shocked when I saw what was being published in the Mail and Guardian. And I reached out to the journalists and I asked him, is it possible for me to get these transcripts, to have a look at them? And in the story they wrote, my name wasn't mentioned at all. But when I got the transcripts, I saw my name was in there. And they were talking about dealing decisively with the O'Sullivan factor. So I thought, wow, somebody has a plan to deal decisively with the O'Sullivan factor.
And what who were these persons that you heard on the tapes?
So the persons talking on the tapes, from memory, was a person by the name, well, actually, they never named him in the tapes. They gave him a code word. I can't remember what the code word is now, but if you get the spy tapes, I'll point it out to you. Not the tapes themselves, but the transcript. And the code word, Luciano, I think it was something like that. Luciano or something like that was his code name. And the other person he was speaking to was, what was the name of the head of the Scorpions?
The Scorpions,
Leonard McCarthy.
Leonard McCarthy.
That's it. Sorry. Just try to remember. So it was Leonard McCarthy and this Luciano, who I later found out was Andre Pina. And I also found out that Andre Pina had previously apparently been a boss agent during the apartheid era. So, and he was living in London. So I reached out to him and I said, hey, what's been going on here? And he denied everything, of course. But the journalists published that it was him. And he was the one that said, don't worry about the O'Sullivan factor. Because what Leonard McCarthy had said was, because what Andre Pina, who's not a state employee at all in any way, shape, or form, he was referencing number one. And number one, he gave him a code name. Now, I can't remember which was which, but there were two code names. One was O'Wood, and the other one was O'Jan. And one of them was the president, the then president, Thabo Mbeki, and the other one was Jackie Celebi. And then they had another name for Jacob Zuma. And they talked about how they were going to manipulate things. And their plan was to get Jackie Celebi off the hook and get Jacob Zuma on the hook. And this would never have been found out except for when Vusi Pikoli was suspended. Jackie Celebi, the Minister of Justice then, Minister Bridget Bandler, she gave instructions to a person called Mokoteri Mpshe, who became the acting NDPP. She gave instructions to Mokoteri Mpshe to make sure that the warrants of arrest for Jackie Celebi would be withdrawn. Now, this is before Polokwane. And my understanding is that the magistrate that had signed the warrants refused to unsign them. He said, you can't come to me and ask me to issue a warrant of arrest and then tell me we've changed our mind, we need to cancel it. He said, you need to bring an application to court to cancel it. And then what happened, Jackie Celebi allegedly was worried that the Scorpions might go rogue and execute the warrant of arrest and arrest him anyway. So they started an investigation. When I say they, the police, they started an investigation. This DPCI didn't exist then. This was in 2007, late 2007. They started an investigation, and in order to get wiretaps, they made an application in terms of the legislation to tap the phone of Leonard McCarthy. And while they were tapping the phones, under the auspices that they wanted to arrest and charge the Gauteng head of Scorpions, Gerinel, who actually in January 2008 was arrested. And we'll come back to the people that were involved in that later, because that's another very interesting story. But what happened was, those spy tapes were put in place by Richard and Luli. And nobody knew about the spy tapes at all. But after Polokwane, they now they had a problem. And when I say they, I'm talking about civil servants, because they wanted to ingratiate themselves with the new leader of the ANC. And that would mean they would need to, Kgalema Motlanthe had been appointed president after Thabo Mbeki had been recalled by the ANC. And then what they wanted to do was to clear the smoke relating to Jacob Zuma. So Goth, not Goth, I'm trying to remember his name. His surname was Hully, Zuma's lawyer.
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
Is it Richard Hully? Michael Hully.
Michael.
Okay. So Michael Hully called a meeting with Mokoteri Mshay, and he sat there and he played the voice recordings and gave him a copy of the transcripts of the voice recordings. And Mokoteri Mshay took a decision that the conduct in pursuing criminal charges against Jacob Zuma was unlawful, and he withdrew and set aside the criminal charges against Jacob Zuma. Now, that was from those spy tapes. But the spy tapes played another role, because Nomgabo Jiba had been suspended for giving evidence in favor of the defense in the prosecution of Jackie Selebi. So she managed to persuade Richard Mzluli to come and testify at her disciplinary inquiry. And he produced the same transcripts and said that the decision to suspend both her and Lawrence Mwebe were unlawful. And these spy tapes proved it. But then the problem was Mokoteri Mshay had now withdrawn criminal charges. As a result of the withdrawal of the criminal charges, if history is looked at, a year later, Jacob Zuma became the president, because now there were no longer a cloud hanging over his head. So now you had this situation where after that happened, I can't remember if it was a DA or somebody else, but somebody then brought an application.
Yeah, there were several applications relating to this party.
Yes.
But can we just fast forward, because you know, I was starting at 2011, 2012 when you
Yes.
sort of
So
embarked
what
on this.
happened then?
Yes,
That
yes.
happened then. And
Yeah.
then I opened dockets. In 2012, I opened a criminal docket against Nomgabo Jiba, Lawrence Mwebe, Prince Mokoteri, who was at that stage an employee at the National Prosecuting Authority. And there were one or two others, but they were the principal people that I opened the docket against. And I alleged that they had committed the offense of perjury, and that they committed an offense in terms of Section 32 of the National Prosecuting Authority Act, in that they had interfered unlawfully. Another person's name was Manzini. Another person's name was, he was the head of crime intelligence. He was Richard Mdludi's boss. Anyway, I opened docket against all of these people, a single docket, because I felt that it would be appropriate that they would have to explain their conduct during the Selebi trial and the latter end of the investigation, the Selebi investigation. And as a result of opening that docket, I then found out that actually they had opened the docket against me. So now they say, okay, we're now going to open a docket against you. And that's what they did. And as for some reason, both dockets were kind of set off. And I thought, wow. I knew that the charges against me were fake, but I knew that the allegations I made against them were not fake. But the prosecution service decided, oh, you know, it's tit for tat. We're going to cancel your docket and we're going to cancel their docket. So now you can carry on. And I wasn't happy with that. And the reason I wasn't happy with it was because I could see that the criminal conduct was still carrying on. So I thought, wow, so they all get off scot-free. And I decided, no, that can't be right. I must carry on pushing. So I opened another docket in either 2013 or 2014 against some of them. By now I had further information and I supplemented the prior docket and I said, no, this.
And you mentioned persons at paragraph 42.
Yes, that's right. Thank you. So by that stage, I had become aware of the conduct of the late Ms. Dudu Mayeni at South African Airways. I had also become aware of, in 2014, of the conduct, or at that stage it was just alleged conduct, of Lieutenant General Pashlami. And what had happened was, we had a commissioner of police, another civilian, a lady by the name of Radovan. And I sent a number of emails to Radovan setting out what I believe to be serious challenges that the police were facing in terms of corruption within the police. And I named some of the people concerned. And most regrettably, she passed my emails on to them. And that left me in a position now where they opened counter investigations against me. And so I then discovered that there were cops following me. And there were cops going around talking to people and asking questions about me. So I thought, no, I have to take the fight back to them. So I started doing that.
So is that the difficult years that you referred to at paragraph 43 between 2014 and 2018?
That's correct. So lots of things started happening to me at that stage.
Are you able to summarize them with reference to the annexes or one of the annexes that's annexed to your affidavit?
So that would probably be this document that I refer to as joining the dots, which is at page B74.
Yes. Now that document is from
June 2017. But it deals with the years prior to June 17. It doesn't deal with what happened after June 2017.
Yeah.
And what that document does is it names a number of the individuals which I believed at that stage had infiltrated the criminal justice system. And I named them and I explained where I believed they fitted in to this infiltration process.
just pause there. See the report, joining the dots, confidential report on page 74. It's dated June 2017. It was published in conjunction with AfriForum in late 2017.
That's correct. In fact, it had been updated by June 2017. So I had produced, together with AfriForum, another report called John in the Dots. And that would have been 6 months or 7 months earlier. But by June 2017, we had more information. We had more understanding of what I considered to be, well, I wasn't on my own in considering it. By that stage, the then public protector had issued a report, and the report was called State of Capture. And I looked at the aspects of that report, State of Capture, and how that interleaved, how it fitted in with what I was seeing going on in the criminal justice system.
And is that then results in what you called a special report on state capture?
I did a further report.
That's on page 95.
Yes, but I produced that report in June 2019.
Yes.
So that's like 2 years later. So what had happened was I had set out the persons that I believe were involved in criminal conduct in this report. I then set out what I believed they had done. And by the way, this was published, and not a single one of them ever came and said, we're issuing you with a summons for defamation. And then I named the people that I believed they were protecting. And I'm talking about people in the criminal justice system protecting criminals. And
So in this period, post Jackie Selebe and his conviction and prosecution and conviction, and you now embark on also pursuing the persons that you've mentioned in your affidavit, quite a number of them senior officials in the criminal justice system, prosecutors, officials. Was there any successful prosecution subsequently for the period 2011-2012 through to June 2019?
there were arrests and trials commenced. And by 2020, I think a total of 12 generals had been arrested and or suspended and or dismissed from the police and were facing criminal charges, as well as a number of brigadiers and colonels. And this, you can say, played out in the criminal charges that were brought against the people I've named. And it appeared to lead to what I would have considered to be a cleanup of the police. And most of these people were
So was this
police.
as a direct result of the work you were doing and the
It was
cases
partially.
that you were opening?
It was partially as a result of that, because after I opened these cases, for example, the cases I opened against the late Duru Maeni, after I opened these cases, I then had interactions with prosecutors and police, and further investigations took place. And then after I opened cases against Pashlani, I opened that case with IPID because he's the acting commissioner of police. So you can't go to the police station and open a case. In the same way, when it came to Jackie Selebe, I opened the case with ICD.
What triggered you opening a case or a complaint, laying a complaint with IPID in respect of General Pashlani?
Chairman, I got a tip-off. And the tip-off came from a person who worked in the police. He was the head of forensics in the Eastern Cape. And he approached me. And
Monsami.
that's it, yes. Colonel Munsami. He's gone on pension now. He later was promoted to brigadier. But he approached me in, I think, August 2014. No, sorry, August 2015. And he approached me and told me, listen, I'd like to give you some information about corruption with General Pashlani, who at the time wasn't the acting commissioner of police. He was a divisional commissioner of forensic services. So I invited him, next time you're in Johannesburg, come and see me. And then about a month later, I hadn't heard from him. So I sent him an email. I said, are we on? Are you going to do something or what's the story? He wrote back and he said, no, I've decided I'm going to handle this internally. And because the police are investigating my complaint. And then I thought, okay, well, you know, there's nothing I can do there. And then about 6 or 8 weeks later, Pashlani was no longer the divisional commissioner of forensics. He was appointed as the acting commissioner of police. So after he was appointed the acting commissioner of police, I thought, wow, this is the guy that this fellow Musami had reached out to me 6 months earlier and said was corrupt. Now, he was appointed after Ria Piecha was suspended. And she was suspended pending an investigation to determine her fitness to hold office as a result of the tragic events that took place at Marikon, where it was alleged, and I never looked into all that, but it was alleged that it was her leadership in the police that caused that. I didn't look into that. That wasn't something I was looking at. I was more interested not in mismanagement of the police, but more in corruption within the police. That became my focus of attention. I think it's fair to say by then it was in my DNA to not stand idly by and see rampant corruption going on. So I decided that the best thing to do was to focus on all of these individuals. And lo and behold, at the time that I had, or at the time that General Pashlani was appointed Commissioner of Police, I thought to myself, okay, let's try out to see, is he a good cop or a bad cop? So I sent him an email explaining to him that I had previously supplied information to Ria Piecha, which I believe implicated a certain other general in corruption. And this general had appointed, I'd opened dockets against that general as well. This general had appointed a person to lead a mini project in looking into me. It's what happens, unfortunately, when you investigate corrupt cops. They use the resources of the state to investigate you. And trust me, at one stage, there was a team of 30 cops who were doing nothing else all day long for about a year than trying to find something they could take Paul O'Sullivan down on. But be that as it is, my approach to Pashlani, I gradually ramped up.
Chair, it's not a follow-up question. There's a decorum in this house. He has been saying Pashlani, Pashlani. We don't have Pashlani here.
Okay, sorry.
We have Mr. Pashlani.
Sorry, Mr. Pashlani. Sorry.
It's general.
General Pashlani. All right, sorry. You know, I'm just thinking out of my brain. Mr. Pashlani, he's not the general. He was a general. Anyway, Mr. Pashlani Now, the problem with that interruption is it's broken my chain of thought. What was I saying? Oh, yes, yes. So what had happened was I had asked Mr. General, he was a general then, I asked General Pashlami to take action to pick up where General Piega had left off and carry on with this investigation into what I consider to be corrupt senior police officials. And-
Just pause. There's a letter, I think, that your attorneys wrote to then General Piega. And it's that letter you say that was passed on to, is it General or Brigadier Munu?
Munu, Lieutenant General Munu. Can you, Chairman, can you ask, or sorry, can you point me in the direction of that document?
Just help us that Furman letter. Yeah, the letter that from then is around 23 years. Okay, you can continue. In the meantime, I'll get some help to find it. It's not in the reference.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I in fact serialized everything on my computer.
No, the only reason why I asked you for that, because that
Yeah, it's a very good letter.
letter I recall
It
sort
was
of
in
captured-
2015.
captured all
Yes,
the
it listed
the
every,
complaints that you had, which were then referred to General Piega.
Mm,
No, it's a, here's the. So perhaps while we also try and find it, Mr. Sullivan, just continue with your evidence.
Okay, so what happened, Chairman, was the letter that was sent to General Piega set out chapter and verse as to what, and it did it in a chronological order. It set out chapter and verse as to what General Munu had been doing. And General Piega gave the letter to General Munu. And that became a bit of a problem because the effect of that was that I think the letter is included in the flock docket. It's an annex to the flock docket.
B143.
Pardon me?
B143.
B143 is the docket. It was
Okay.
probably about B184 somewhere. Ah, here we go. Like, okay, it's page B184.
184.
Yes, 184. Now,
Yeah.
Chairman, the whole of this can be read into the record because it sets out chapter and verse of exactly what was going on in a chronological fashion. And this is the letter that was sent to General Piega by my attorneys. And it starts with events that took place in 2012 and leads right up to the date of the letter. And the letter is dated 26th of May, 2015. And it talks about the dockets that I had opened. It talks about opening a docket in Silverton against Advocate Mwebi, Advocate Jiba, General Mgluli. It talks about a letter I sent to then head of DPCI, which was General Dramat, to notify him that I believed General Munu was engaged in what I could at that time describe as questionable activity. I then talk about a docket I opened in 2014 involving alleged corruption. Then I talk about an email I sent to General Piega canvassing allegations of misconduct against General Munu in October 2014. I wrote to her again that I became aware of information because, Chairman, if you've got stuff like this going on, it's better to have it on the record before it happens. So I wrote and I informed General Piega that I believed that General Munu was planning to have me arrested on trumped-up charges. So I wrote and told her that. I then wrote again on the 13th to advise her that I would be increasing my focus on corrupt police officers, and by implication, I meant General Munu. I then received a response on the 25th of October 2014 from General Piega informing me that she had forwarded my complaint to General Munu. And I considered that to be, shall we say, defeating the ends of justice, because here you are making a complaint against a general that you consider to be possibly corrupt. And the next thing, the person you complained to, which is that general's boss, supplies him with a copy of the complaint. I then wrote to her again, and this time I now started involving IPID, because I thought to myself, well, if I'm just going to complain to the Commissioner of Police, and she's going to share my complaint with the person of interest, I must now involve IPID. So I wrote to her again, and I copied IPID. And that was at the beginning of 2015.
Is that at the time when Robert McBride was the executive director of IPID?
That's correct. So I think he had been just about appointed around about that time, or just before then. I can't remember.
And when you referred the complaints to IPID and McBride was the executive director, did you know him at the time?
No, I didn't know him before I referred these complaints to him. In fact, I only get to know him after he was appointed. I got a phone call from a journalist one day telling me that IPID had issued an apology to me. And then I went on the website and I found that apology. And the apology was from IPID, which had previously been known as ICD, which was the Independent Complaints Directorate. And while it was ICD, I brought a court application against the ICD because they failed and or refused to do any investigation into my allegations against General Celebi, Jackie Celebi, the late Jackie Celebi. So because I issued a court application against ICD, by the way, we settled on an agreed court order. And the agreed court order was that they agreed to carry out the proper investigation. But by that stage, I'd more or less given up. And that was probably 2006 or 2007 or something like that. By that stage, I'd handed everything I had to the Scorpions. But they issued a report stating that they could find no wrongdoing on the part of Jackie Celebi. And a year later, of course, he was charged criminally. So I felt that I was vindicated because of their failure or refusal to investigate Jackie Celebi. But I was still not happy that they still had on their website a statement from ICD, which had now become IPID. On their website, they had a letter stating that they carried out the investigation and they could find no evidence of wrongdoing on the part of Jackie Celebi. So I wrote to them. I didn't write to Robert McBride. I wrote to IPID and I said, look, this is on your website. He's now been convicted. Don't you think it would be more appropriate if you take that down from your website? And they then took it down. I asked for an apology, but they didn't give me the apology. But after Robert McBride was appointed, without any conversation with me, and by that stage, Jackie Celebi was in prison, or hospital prison, because he didn't actually serve a day in prison. He was in a hospital, but sort of a hospital prison. What happened was I got this call from a journalist saying that IPID had issued an apology to me for the conduct of ICD in forcing me to go to court, to launch a court application, to make them do an investigation, and then to carry out an investigation and issue a report that they couldn't find any wrongdoing. In fact, the report was a bit more than that. They accused me of sour grapes. They said that actually they believed that I had pursued this matter because Jackie Celebi had been involved in the cancellation of my contract at AXA. And they believed that therefore I had done this as a result of sour grapes. And they apologized for this. So after they apologized for that, I then decided, okay, well, since they're apologizing, there seems to be some goodwill there. So I then dragged them into my email exchanges with General Piega. And lo and behold, she was then suspended. But before she was suspended, I had meetings then with IPID. And I had the meeting at IPID, and that was the first time I met Robert McBride. And when I had the meeting with him, I sat down and explained to him everything that had been going on with these various emails to General Piega and what I believe to be the criminal conduct of all these other interrelated parties. And he then indicated that he would carry out an investigation. But I just left my, I didn't do any further work on it. I left my lever arch files with him. And that would have been late 2014, early 2015. I think probably January 2015, something like that. And then what happened? If I recall correctly, it was either February or March 2015. Oh, I should mention that by this stage, I'd also had meetings with Anwar Dramat, General Dramat, who was the head of DPCI. And I had brought to him documentation that implicated a gentleman by the name of Radovan Krejcir in unlawful conduct.
So, Mr. O'Sullivan, so how do you get these or procure these appointments with high-level officials, either in the police, with the Hawks, with IPID?
I reach out to them and I say, listen, I would like to have a meeting with you. And, you know, obviously they have the right to say, no, we don't want to meet with you. But in this case, they agreed to meet with me. So I didn't say I want a meeting with you. You know, it's nothing cagey about it at all. I just say, listen, there's stuff going on. You're the head of DPCI, and I think you need to know. You need to know a relationship between this fellow Radovan Krejcir and certain generals in crime intelligence. And I met with him and I explained to him what was going on. And then I explained to him where I believed General Muna fitted into the picture. And I need to point out that I had a motive for doing this because Radovan Krejcir had tried to murder me. Several times, actually. On the 9th of January 2014, Radovan Krejcir was in jail and he was bringing a bail application. And I'd heard that he was bringing a bail application. So I put some evidence together and I went to see the prosecutor. And I said, listen, I think, you know, it's not the job of a citizen to oppose bail, but I think you should know that I believe this man has been involved in quite a lot of murders. And I produced the evidence that I believed was appropriate, which included a statement I had taken from a person living in Prague, in the Czech Republic. I had tracked this person down. He had previously been working for Radovan Krejcir, and he gave me a sworn statement setting out chapter and verse about how Radovan Krejcir killed certain people. And not only that, he explained in detail how Radovan Krejcir had hired him to kill me. And on the 9th of January 2014, there was an attempt on my life. And the people were arrested outside my house, actually at a hotel, the Road Lodge in Sandton, close to my house. But I have video footage of them surveilling my house. And a chap by the name of, can't remember his first name, but he had a nickname, Killer Kimber. Killer Kimber came to my house and told me, listen, they're going to kill you this morning. I said, yeah, I know about it. I've got a process in place to protect myself from that from happening. So what happened was they ran an operation. I had already a person inside that crime syndicate who didn't want to be involved in what they were doing and had come to me and told me what was going on. And they arrested all of them. And when they arrested all of them, this person later gave me a sworn statement, which that sworn statement was supplied to General Paslani, implicating General Munu, because the individual that had been arrested, who was in fact a 204 witness, had implicated General Munu because one of the co-accused of him with Radovan Krejcir had told to him, because after they'd been arrested, General Munu came on the crime scene and started taking their photographs with his cell phone. And the 204 witness was told by one of the accused, a chap by the name of Mir, listen, keep it to yourself, but that general's going to get us all out of here. If they book you out for investigation, just say nothing. But when they told him that, they didn't realize that he was actually a 204 witness. He was already working with the police. So this guy told them, he told the police that this fellow Mir had told him, don't worry, we're all going to be taken care of. Radovan Krejcir has got that guy in his pocket. He's going to look after us. So all of this started going on at the same time. And the end result was the then Deputy National Commissioner of Police was a person by the name of Krejcir Sitoli. So I got my lawyer to send a detailed letter to him.
Yeah, General Sitoli replaced General Paslani.
Yes, but while General Paslani was acting chief of police,
yeah,
General Sitoli was the Deputy National Commissioner for Police on the detective side. So he just moved up one level when he became Commissioner of Police. But at the time, and I had no issues with General Sitoli, except that things moved very quickly around that time. And eventually what happened was my investigations into Paslani led to lots of things happening to me. And when I say lots of things happening to me, I'm talking about unlawful arrest, detention, torture, assault, having my offices raided multiple times, having staff kidnapped, lots of things, and it's all documented.
Yeah, but perhaps can we just go to that annexure where these events are catalogued, and then we can conclude
So that would be the
on for today.
143.
That's the flock.
Yes, 143. So if we go to 143, Chairman, this sets out chapter and verse in a chronological order as to what all was going on. And obviously it's a lengthy document. So I want to start actually with page 139. So if we start with page 139, page 139 is the charge sheet, because in 2019, Flock was arrested and charged on the dockets I opened against him. And that was like 7 years ago, and that trial still hasn't started. But he was arrested and charged, and this is the charge sheet that was issued. It was updated slightly. So this is actually, I think, the 24 version or 23 version, but these were essentially the same charges. And count one was attempted extortion. And if you read this attempted extortion, what Flock is alleged to have done is he'd gone to the lawyers of a divorcee, a female divorcee, and he told her that she would be arrested on charges of possession of unlicensed firearms and racketeering, and she would not be granted bail. And did by means of the said threat, attempted to induce or pressure, unlawfully and intentionally obtain an advantage not due to him, to wit, to get this lady to allow her husband, access to their minor daughter, who was a subject of a custody battle, and to become a witness against Paul O'Sullivan. Now, we had taken on, in respect of that matter, I had taken on, well, Forensics for Justice had taken on a pro bono case. So we would act for some people that needed help. We've acted, for example, for some community property associations where corruption has taken place and they've lost their land and stuff like that. We tried to help these people. And in this case, we tried to help her because she considered herself to be an abused wife or ex-wife.
That's Ms. Flush.
Yes.
So the charges count 1, 2, and 3
Yeah, if you look at charge 3, Chairman.
relate to her.
Yes, all these charges relate to her. But if you look at charge 3, that the accused of crime of defeating or obstructing the course of justice, and there at that place on that date and what, the accused had wrongfully and intentionally performed the following act: threatened to arrest Lynn Fleece on charges of possession of unlicensed firearm and racketeering, and keep her in custody unless she assisted with an investigation against Paul O'Sullivan. Now, charge 4 is even worse, because charge 4, the same warrant officer Flock was charged with, in that on or about the 29th of November 2017, and at or near Brooklyn, in the regional division of Gauteng, the accused had wrongfully and intentionally performed the following acts: deposed to an affidavit that the docket under Albert and Cass 799/11/2012 was stolen, and that he had to open a duplicate docket for purposes of investigation. And whereas the accused, when he acted aforesaid, well knew that he signed for the original docket, and that by opening a duplicate docket, he intended that his actions would have the following results or consequence: that a different decision be made than what was initially decided by the prosecution, and thus so doing the accused defeated or obstructed the administration of justice. In fact, that docket was a case that was opened against myself and one of my staff. We carried out the investigation in 2011, 2012. And that investigation was for a deceased estate. And the allegation was that the person of interest had stolen 6.5 million rand from the deceased estate. And during the course of our investigation, we had cause to go and visit the person of interest to say that, look, we have these allegations. We'd like to get your version of events. And, you know, if you didn't steal the money, it's fine. But if you did steal the money, maybe you should put it back because you would face criminal charges. So, as I mentioned to you earlier, if you're investigating criminals, quite a lot of them like to think, oh, I can get this guy off my back. I'll open a counter investigation. So he opened a docket in Alberton in November under that number 799/11/2012. And that accused person alleged that I had said to him, if you pay me 3 million, we'll let the case go away. But he was a bit silly because I had one of my staff with me. A forensic specialist was with me, a lady by the name of Melissa Naidu. And as a standard procedure, we tape recorded the discussion. So nothing of the kind was said. So I did a warning statement because I did a statement because the investigating officer of the case from Alberton Police Station phoned me and said, listen, this guy's opened a case against you. We need to get your statement. So I said, no problem. And I went and I gave him a copy of the docket we'd opened against that person of interest, alleging theft of 6.5 million rand. And the prosecutor took a decision not to prosecute on the docket the counter investigation that had been opened against us. But Flock wasn't happy with that. And he worked with another prosecutor. And they took a decision based on a new docket that had been created on the basis that the old docket had gone missing. Meanwhile, it hadn't gone missing. They were able to get evidence that he'd gone and taken that docket and made a sworn statement saying that the docket had been stolen. In fact, in his sworn statement, he alleged that I'd stolen the docket, but he'd forgotten that when he went to the police station, he refused to sign for it. And they said, no, you must sign. He said, then you must phone the commissioner, which at the time was General Pashlani. They said, no, if you want me to sign for it, you must phone the commissioner. And the guy, instead of phoning the commissioner, he just entered on the system that this fellow had come along and taken the docket and refused to sign for it, but it was on the system. So now they knew he had taken that docket.
Yes, then in the annexure that
It follows.
at 143.
Yep.
Your sworn statement, you then also catalogue.
I catalog everything in detail. So we
Yeah.
talk about this this fellow Flock.
Yeah.
And then if I go to page 146, because obviously anybody can read the whole thing, but I just want to
Yeah, no, I just want us to
highlight
that
the
we can
important
conclude on
areas. If I
this,
go
yeah.
to page 146, paragraph
56 or 156.
146. Page 146, paragraph 9. I've said Krejcir shot Jackson dead on 2010-05-03 at Smith's house rented in Kempton Park, and together with the corrupt general in crime intelligence. And the importance of this is very important because I found out who that corrupt general was and I opened a docket against him. And his name is not mentioned in here. I think he's deceased now. His name was Joey Mabasa. So then what happened was this fellow Cyril Beaker was murdered. Then we go to page 148, paragraph 14. I explain in detail here where General Munu fits in,
Yeah.
in the relationship with Radovan Krejcir. And we talk about the undercover agent who was arrested with the people that were trying to kill me on the 9th of January, 2014. So they walked into a trap. They were all caught. Now, after that, I explained the link between Flock and Munu, because at the time, Flock was working in Munu's offices. And if you go to paragraph 18, which is on page 149,
Yeah.
I subsequently got a statement in 2016 from who was then a policeman, a warrant officer or captain, I can't remember, at Hartbeespoort Dam. His name was Krejcir. And he gave me a statement in October 2016. And the statement is available if anybody wants to see it, but it says, in or during late 2014, I was working what was then known as the National Intervention Unit. This is a group of detectives that operated under direct control and management of then Divisional Commissioner for Detectives, Lieutenant General Munu. It was whilst working under Munu that I first came across Warrant Officer Flock. I could see that his conduct in late 2014 appeared to be directed towards finding any information he could find that would incriminate Paul O'Sullivan in any crimes at all. It was not as if there was a specific complaint. It was more like he was on a fishing expedition. I say this because he asked me several times if I could help him find any dirt on Paul O'Sullivan. I made it clear that I'd previously worked with Paul O'Sullivan's office and he was professional at all time. Now, we had done an investigation in plus minus 2011 or 2012 involving an attempted murder or shootings. And that took place in the policing area near Hartbeespoort Dam. And that was my first dealings with him, this fellow called Krejcir. He was the investigating officer of that case. And the person that had not been murdered, but believed he was going to be murdered, had come to us and asked us to help. So this then led to me meeting Krejcir, and Krejcir then gave me the statement.
So, Mr. O'Sullivan, these are all catalogued.
Yes, it's very
And,
well catalogued. And if I go now to page 155.
So you then at one stage, and we started the interaction, cataloging the difficulties, problems that you were experiencing in the period after 2011 into 2014, 2015. And these are all contained in these documents. And they are dated and signed almost contemporaneously during that period. So it's not documents that you have now constructed after the event.
No, in fact, Chairman.
And then you were also then forced, as you described, you were forced into exile because of threats on your life and so on.
No, I wasn't forced into exile, Chairman, no. What happened was
But you went back to the UK?
No, I go up and down all the time. I didn't go back to the UK. That was in 2006.
I was earlier.
Yes.
Okay, then I'm mistaken. Sorry.
In 2006, I got intelligence that I was going to be murdered. And then after a while, nothing happened. And then I got further intelligence that they were planning to kill my family.
Yeah.
So I moved the family out. Now, what took place round about this time was I had opened the docket in 2015, in March 2015, against Duduma Eni, the then chairman of South African Airways. And the docket I opened against her resulted in a raid being carried out on my offices at the instructions of Muno by this fellow warrant officer Flock. And they had a search warrant and they seized my computer, and that took place on the 15th of April 2015. So I launched an urgent application and I had the warrant set aside, and the court issued an order that my computer had to be handed back to me, and that if they had any copy of any information that they downloaded from my computer, that it must be destroyed. But unfortunately, they didn't comply with that order. So in fact, what they did was they copied my computer, handed me back my computer, and then kept the copy and started going through it to look to see if they could find something that they could use. It's what we would call the fruit of a poison tree. And in this process of going through my computer, they then came up with a whole lot of dockets against me. But the witnesses, or the complainants, whatever you want to call it, in the cases against me, were criminals that we had investigated and we'd opened dockets against in the forensic practice. And now suddenly, all the people, and I said, well, this is very strange. The first incident that took place.
So none of these cases went to court to be prosecuted,
Oh, yes.
and there were no successful prosecutions against you.
No, they went-
doing with it.
They went to court. So what happened was, the first case was on the 1st of April, 2016. And I was on the way to fly to London. And I had two of my children with me. And their ages at that stage were 8 years old and 9 years old. And just after boarding the plane, as the doors were closing, there was a bang, bang, bang on the door. And the door was opened. And I know because I was sitting very close to the door. And they opened the door. And it was the police. And they said, no, we have a warrant of arrest for Paul O'Sullivan. He needs to get off the plane. Now, I've got an 8-year-old and a 9-year-old daughter with me. So I said, no, let them fly. I'll get their mother to meet them at the other end. And they said, no, the airline said, no, they can't fly without the adult. They'll have to come off the plane with you.
And the warrant is in relation to which matter?
They didn't have a warrant. They lied.
Yeah.
There was no warrant. And then after
You asked for them to show you the
I
warrant,
asked them to show
and
me.
you're sitting on the plane.
Yes. And they couldn't show me the
And the
warrant.
doors have closed already?
They've opened the doors again. So the doors were closing. There was a knock on the door. And they opened the door.
And this is an international flight.
This is the South African Airways flight to London.
Yeah.
So by this stage, my 8 and 9-year-old daughter was sitting comfortably in their seat across the aisle from me. And they've got their little coloring in books and they're busy coloring in as children do. And now suddenly I'm dragged off the plane with my 2 children. And after we get dragged off the plane, and remember, we've gone through passport control. So we've gone out of the country already, but they insist on taking us back through passport control to stamp us back into the country. And then in front of my children, they put handcuffs on me. 8-year-old and a 9-year-old daughter. And then they assault me in front of my children. Then I call my wife to come and collect the children. After I call my wife to come and collect the children, my wife came there. Then they took my phone off me. And then they took the children away. My wife took the children away. Then they took me at 230 kilometers an hour to Pretoria Central Police Station. And they kept me in a rat-infested cell with excrement and sewage running across the floor. I couldn't sit down because there was no chair in the cell. There was nowhere to sit. And there's all this raw sewage on the floor. And I was kept there until the following afternoon. So it's now the 2nd of April. This is all very well documented, by the way. Extremely well documented in court papers. Because then what happened was I was moved from Pretoria
These
Central.
court papers you're referring to are the court papers in the application brought
Yes.
for your release.
Not at that time. So what happened was, Chairman, after this, I was moved to another police station. And then I was moved to another police station. So they kept moving me. And the last police station I was at was Kempton Park. Now, the 1st of April in 2016 was a Friday. So I ended up at Kempton Park Police Station on the Monday. And my lawyers have now come there to bring an application for bail. And I'm told that I'm being charged with a breach of Section 26B of the Citizenship Act. In that, I used my Irish passport.
Honorable
Section-
James.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, please help me understand. We brought this witness before us here today to respond to allegations that has been made by all the previous witnesses, like we have seen with all our other witnesses. They came here to respond to that. Mr. Paul O'Sullivan has come here today and basically pushing his agenda of all his success stories that we have to listen to here in the entire day. Not responding to anything that was leveled against him by any of the other witnesses. We are sitting here today listening to his success stories and dancing according to his music. Until what time do we intend sitting here when he has back issues and he has to leave at 7 o'clock? Tomorrow we're never ever going to get through the statement. This is a book that he has given to us based on what he thinks we should hear. And we're not here to be sitting and listening to him all day and night for 2 days. We're here to probe the allegations that's been leveled against him. For how much longer are we going to allow this? We can't have this. I'm looking at this long index that he has given us, miscellaneous matter, taxpayers, fund for Japan, all this stuff. He's sitting here, most of the stuff isn't relevant. We don't want to know about his journey in life. Courts. Thank you.
Honorable Skosana.
Yeah, at last, Chair. I just want to anchor Honorable James as well. When I raised my hand, Chair, because I remembered the 7 o'clock. So I didn't want you to close before I say this to Mr. O'Sullivan, that all what we have, this bundle which we are having here, please, tomorrow, Chair, we need to have evidence. Because there's a lot of I don't want to put it there. Let me put it nicely. There's a lot of nonsensical papers on this thing. We need evidence tomorrow, Chair, not what we were traumatized last week. We can't be traumatized going forward from now, Chair. We need evidence, not gossiping, evidence. Thank you, Chair.
Muhalaka.
Chair, I think that we might want to blame the witness, but the evidence leader is responsible for all of this. Because the evidence leader must be able to refer the witness to a relevant paragraph. And if the witness takes forever, the evidence leader who knows that I'm working within a limited time must be able to remind the witness. And she was doing that earlier on. And then now we're back to the same problem we're having here in this committee. So please, the evidence leader must lead. I mean, Mr. Paul O'Sullivan everybody, if you are given a platform to speak lo, no bolela, awuna motho wa tsenang. O ka ba rudu ba tee. O utlwa le ho bolela. So if the evidence leader is not going to interrupt him and say, no, come back here, we're here, let's proceed this way. He's just going to speak. It's like we're in a podcast now.
Advocate Arensa.
Honorable Chair, honorable members, the terms of reference of this honorable committee relates to police misconduct, political interference. The evidence thus far, and it is evidence, it's not a story made up by the witness, that resulted in the successful prosecution and conviction of a former national police commissioner. In the last while, and yes, it has also quite frankly annoyed me a bit because it's taken too long. Because I've tried to push Mr. O'Sullivan to summarize or just refer us to a document where his own experiences are summarized, and it is on the record, and the honorable members may not be interested in it, but they can read it for themselves. This is as a result of him lodging several cases, opening several dockets against senior police. What we have just heard is one wouldn't wish it on anybody. It's the most egregious, or one of the most egregious acts imaginable. Is sitting on an airplane with your children, police officers coming on board without a warrant and hauling you off an aircraft and putting you into a cell. Now, there is nothing that indicates that this is not what has happened. But we will tomorrow attempt to curtail what is left of Mr. O'Sullivan's affidavit so that we can conform to the time restrictions that we do have. Thank you.
How much time do you want tomorrow?
Are we going to start slightly earlier, Honorable Chair? Or are we starting at 11?
We can make that determination if we know how much time do you need to conclude the presentation.
We would need at least 3 hours.
It's not going to be possible. Let me tell you why I say it's not going to be possible. If we are going to finish at 19 hours tomorrow, it means we are going to start allowing members to ask questions at 2 o'clock. And that is 5 hours. It means only 10 members of this committee are going to speak, unless if the members agree that the alternates will not have anything to say tomorrow. Because if you divide 5 hours by 10, it means you allocate each member 30 minutes from 2 o'clock until 19 hours. Those will only be the 10 members of the committee which will speak. Honorable Nomvalo.
Yeah, no, Chair, I'm very worried after listening to the reaction of the evidence leader. I think he's being defensive because, yeah, we're trying to help the situation. And if he responds like this, it means tomorrow we're going to face the same situation. Chair, we've been saying this on numerous occasions, and it's on our terms of reference. that this session, this committee belongs to members, not to the evidence leader. The evidence leader has taken more than a day from 11 o'clock. We're complaining about his pace because his role here is to lead evidence. And he can apply many mechanisms to ensure that he moves at a very fast pace. Pace. Now he allows the witness to speak and to dwell on peripheral issues which are not even related to questions that have been asked by him. That is what we are reprimanding, Chair, to say he is not giving proper guidance to a witness. And that is why we're chowing a lot of time. So he must not do that. At least, Chair, he must be given an hour tomorrow, not 3 hours. Because there are members here, we don't want to be told that we have limited time tomorrow. We also want to make a submission, Chair, that let's go back to a proposition that was made by Honorable Mateus and Honorable Sols, that our time must not include questions by a witness. Because we've got a lot of interest on the witness before us, and we think that we require more time for our questions. So our 30 minutes must not include his responses, because you can see how he responds. So if our 30 minutes includes his responses, it means we might spend 5 minutes and he spends 25 minutes because he gives long answers to a greater extent which are peripheral and out of context. So it must not be defensive, Advocate Arenze. We are not doing justice to us as members of this committee, and we are encouraging you to improve. This is not an attack. You must view it as a constructive criticism. Thank you.
Honorable Malim.
Thanks, Chair. We support 1 hour tomorrow for the advocate, because you can't have a day and a half, and then we have a half, and then still go around and say, this is our committee. It can't happen like that. That is lack of consideration. He must do his work in such a way that he also allows us to do our work. We allow Mr. Paul O'Sullivan to answer the way he's done. If he takes his time and allow him to do what he's doing, it can be on us. His time is exhausted today. Tomorrow is our day. We're giving him an hour, then from there we're coming in. The story that Mr. O'Sullivan is telling us about his achievement is for today because he's speaking alone. We are coming tomorrow. This thing of telling us achievement ends today. Tomorrow we're going to have to answer the allegations that were made against him. So we will make sure he's going to answer those allegations that were made against him. Tomorrow is our day, please. 1 hour is enough to summarize leading evidence, and then we must also have an opportunity. We can't look for Mr. Paul O'Sullivan. When he arrives here, we are being denied an opportunity to question him because a process being deliberately prolonged to an extent that when our time comes, we don't have an opportunity to ask proper questions because we are being rushed. Thanks.
Do we still have members who want to speak before I close the meeting? Okay. We are going to start at 10 o'clock tomorrow. The presentation of evidence will be concluded by 11 o'clock tomorrow. 1 hour will be allocated. And then we are going to allocate full members. Each of the full members will have 40 minutes. And the alternates will have 15 minutes. That will be the order of proceedings tomorrow. And each of the members will be responsible for keeping their own time. Once we allocate, we start the clock. At the end of 40 minutes, the next speaker takes the microphone. There is nobody who will be blaming the chair to say, it's like you are sleeping on that chair. Once you see that it is your time to speak, you just say, Mr. Paul O'Sullivan, look at me, it's me now. Then you ask questions. I want to thank you so much, honorable members, for your patience. It has been a very long day. Thank our evidence leaders. Thank you once again, Mr. Paul O'Sullivan, and the staff of Parliament and the staff coming from political caucuses and members of the media. We have come to the end of today's proceedings. We want to thank those members of Parliament who have come to join us here and supported us all the way for the better part of the day. We also invite you to come back tomorrow if you are available. Members,
I'm very sorry to do this. Can we, I don't know how fast can we get that? Can we get AXA to give us the advert of that position? Because it's a public document. Surely it must be somewhere. Our secretariat or the legal team must go and ask in between now and 10, where is the advert of the position Mr. Paul O'Sullivan occupied? Because it's very important. Thanks, Chair.
okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Paul O'Sullivan.
Chairman, am I to understand that instead of coming here to give evidence, I've come here to be interrogated on allegations made against me by criminals? Is that why I'm here? Because if that's why I'm here, I'm going to withdraw my cooperation. I'm not going to assist in a kangaroo court. I came here to give evidence about the corruption in the criminal justice system, which has resulted in the mess that we have in the criminal justice system today. And the false allegations that have been made against me will take, I don't know, a lot more than an hour to go through. And if it's going to be curtailed because people don't want to hear the truth, it means what we're actually doing is we're not allowing a witness to explain why this happened and why that happened. What I cannot contemplate is that everyone should think, oh, I woke up one day and decided to infiltrate IPID and infiltrate the police and infiltrate the National Prosecuting Authority, because that pack of lies has been peddled in this house by multiple witnesses who belong in prison. And because I've taken steps, as I'm entitled to do according to the law, to ensure that they face up to the criminal charges that have been opened against them, not just by me, but by others as well. It's imperative, in my opinion, Chairman, that the full story be given, not half the story, or I didn't come here just to defend myself against the allegations of these criminals. And if that's the only thing that this committee wants to hear, it's a problem, because the reality is that those allegations were only made against me because I took steps to hold them accountable for their criminal conduct. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, let's do like this. Our Mr. Paul O'Sullivan, our dearest witness, we have invited you here to come and have a conversation with you. And yourself, together with the evidence leaders, have been given an opportunity to make a presentation before the committee. This committee is made up of members of Parliament, and they have given you an opportunity to make a presentation. But you also have more opportunities tomorrow, when individual members will be asking you questions for you to clarify whatever you may want to clarify or to give more information that you may want to share with them. The proceedings in this committee take that form. First, you deposit a statement, and then second, the evidence leaders will come and lead you here in the presentation of the statement. And thirdly, the members are going to pose questions to you. And when you respond to those questions, it's part of presenting evidence before this committee. The presentation of evidence is not one-legged, where the evidence leader just leads you and you present. And when the next thing, when we wake up tomorrow, you have taken 2 days presenting evidence. So you must not be worried. You are going to be afforded enough time tomorrow to respond to the questions that the honorable members are raising. If there is anything that you want to clarify, you will clarify during that time when you have that opportunity. So don't be worried that you will come here and leave. If there are allegations made about your involvement in IPID, whoever asks you about those allegations, you say, let me tell you what happened at IPID. This is what happened. Then you explain. If somebody says there were the following allegations, like Honorable Malema requests that the advert must be brought here. In case there is something found in the advert which you will not have shared with us today, they are going to ask you those questions to say, but this advert required the following as minimum qualifications. And you have said to us that what you have is a higher certificate in electronics. How were you a suitable candidate? And then you explain the way you know it or how the decisions were arrived at. And look, I still believe in your courage. You know, when you say to us that I will withdraw my cooperation, I'm looking at you, and when I look at you, you are old enough to be my father. Yes. I'm 51 years old. I will be 52 in April, and you are 70.
I would have been a naughty teenager.
So listen to me, my elder. As the chairperson of this committee, I want to learn best practices from you. We must learn the best values from you. There is no pulling out here. We walk this together, and because we have very much faith in your abilities, in your skills, in your experience, we will expect you to lead us tomorrow until we reach the finishing line. So let's cooperate. We are young. We want to learn from those who have experience. We want to learn from the best like you. So help us to walk this path as a belief.
Chairman, if it was a simple matter of my involvement in 1 or 2 little things that happened over 2 months or 3 months or 4 months, we are talking about 36 years that I've spent fighting crime in this country for the benefit of all the people in South Africa. 36 years of my life must be now condensed into 1 hour. Or the things I only want to focus so that this committee may understand how so many people involved in corruption within the police targeted me to stop me from exposing their corruption, right down to the people that came and sat there and lied through their teeth about my involvement in capturing IPID or
On a
capturing
point
the
of order,
prostitution service.
On a point of order.
Yes, point of order taken.
You know, Mr. Paul, when we started here, you tried those things with us of wanting to tell us how we must conduct our business. You're not the first witness here. We've been running this process and running it smoothly and in a respectful way. So you're not going to come here and disrespect us and say we want to give you 1 hour to tell us your side of story of fighting crime for 36 years when we have given you the whole day and we are adding another hour the following day. The same way the chairperson is pleading with you, we're pleading with you to respect us. Treat us with respect. We're honorable members here. We are running these proceedings. You are not running these proceedings. And we are governing how these proceedings are going to be run. Today, it was you and evidence leaders. Tomorrow, the chairperson says you'll have an hour. And when members ask you questions and you think there is an issue that you have not sufficiently canvassed, you still have a right to speak to that issue in responding to a member's question. It's as simple as that. So these threats of withdrawing cooperation and also saying to us, no, I can't be made to tell a story of 36 years in 1 hour. How many days do we have? We have a limitation. We need to finish this work. Please respect us and respect the chairperson. Yes, made a ruling. Tomorrow, 10 a.m., we're all here. Your hour starts at 10 a.m. And 11 o'clock, you finish, and then members take over. We proceed until 7. I think that is the understanding, Chair.
With all due respect, Chairman,
Honorable Skosana.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Mr. O'Sullivan, before you speak, the Chair must give you a chance.
okay.
Thank you. Now, Chair, we've been listening, we've been reading. We can read all these stories for the last 36 years. We have stories to talk about here. He's saying other people came here and lie. Others are saying he's lying here. Now, tomorrow is our time, Chair. He'll have an able time to respond to our question. Hence, I said earlier, with evidence, gossiping, we listen to a lot of gossips in our lifetime. Tomorrow, as we want evidence because this document, look at this document, it's thick. We need evidence, Chair. We don't want to go out tomorrow here without getting evidence.
That is the most voluminous statement ever.
Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Paul O'Sullivan.
Chairman, what I've done today is I've started the process to explain how the criminal justice system was captured, not just by criminals, but also by politicians and people who should in fact be held accountable for the capture of the criminal justice system. Now, I've remained calm. I'm not shouting. I'm not being belligerent. And I expect, if my cooperation is going to continue, I don't expect people to start shouting at me. I expect to be shown courtesy and respect. Don't ask for respect if you're going to shout at me. If you're going to do that, I'm not going to respect you. I want to make it clear that Parliament, and I'm not talking about this committee, I'm talking about the whole of Parliament. Parliament has a duty, and the duty of Parliament not only is to run the country and make laws and legislation. Parliament has the power and authority to hold the
Chair, on a point of order.
executive authority.
Can I rise?
No, you are making him to undermine us. He's abusing us now.
Can I rise on a point?
Lecturing us now.
Uh,
No, man. This is white supremacy at play, man.
no,
Plain.
no, we must not do this, honorable members. We must not do this. Let's allow the witness to conclude. May you conclude your statement, Mr. O'Sullivan.
Chairman, before I complete my statement, I need to point out that I will not accept my words being described as a display of white supremacy. I will not accept that. The honorable members may have privileges to say these things, but that doesn't mean I must accept those insults, and I will not. The reality is, as I was trying to say, is that Parliament has the power and authority to hold the executive, including cabinet ministers and organs of the state, accountable to it. In terms of section 55(2) of the Constitution,
Okay, I know it's fine. I heard you. This is how we are going to conclude the meeting.
No, he's trying to do that training he did without qualifications.
No, let's not go there, honorable members. Mr. O'Sullivan has done a consultation with our evidence leaders. And one of the aspects that we are investigating as this committee is public interference in the work of the SAPS or the criminal justice system. And your name has been mentioned or has been alleged to have been involved in one or two of the aspects that we are investigating. And I very much agree with you that Parliament has a right to play its oversight, bring the executive here. We practice what you call a parliamentary executive system in this country. We can call any member of the executive, but we can also call any member of the public to appear before us if there is any conversation we want to have with him or her, or if we want them to present any evidence before a committee of Parliament. So this is what we're exactly doing with you. It's not a war talk. We had very good, very smooth proceedings today. We allowed you to present whatever evidence you wanted to present with us. We are going to conclude the presentation of evidence tomorrow at 11 o'clock. And then from 12 o'clock, we are going to take questions from members. We break at 1, we come back, we continue with the questions until we conclude the proceedings. I don't foresee any difficulty. We are here, all of us, you are also here. We give you an opportunity to present the issues that you think we must know them, which can help us to reform or to improve the justice system in the country. For instance, what you say that there has been political involvement or any other allegation that you want to bring here. I still say to you that there is no need for any one of us to be agitated. But where I'm standing personally, I'm looking at you as the eldest in this room to help us to walk this road and come to the end of the proceedings tomorrow. And you can do it. You have those abilities. When you were presenting here, you were telling us you have been almost everywhere. So I strongly believe that you can help us, share with us your experiences, but very importantly, give us the evidence and the recommendations that can help this country to move forward. The same way you have declared here that the first time you came to South Africa, you so much fell in love with this country and wanted to be its citizen. Now we are joining hands as the citizens of this country to build it and make it a better place for its citizens. All the best. Let's meet here again tomorrow and have a very good conversation that we had in today's proceedings. Honorable members, thank you. Honorable Sangoni.
Sorry, Chair, you just confused me. You said we're going to give them an hour. We start asking questions at 12. So are we starting at 11? And then
we're starting at 10 tomorrow.
At 10.
1 hour will end at 11. So we have 2 hours before lunch.
Okay. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much.